All right, let's dive right into this explainer and trace the incredible documentary timeline of how a simple coin toss birthed the very foundation of Silicon Valley. Imagine for a second that you are an incoming executive at a modern tech giant. To really understand how to steer a massive, global enterprise into the future, you have to look back at the exact blueprint of how it was originally built. And today, we're going to do exactly that by analyzing the 80-plus year history of the Hewlett-Packard company.
$538. That is it. That was the entire initial investment made by two Stanford engineering grads, Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard, way back in 1938. They officially formed their company in 1939, and the name itself, Hewlett-Packard, was literally decided by a simple coin toss. It's a pretty striking reminder that the absolute largest tech empires often begin with the most modest, seemingly insignificant stakes. We are going to explore this 80-plus year evolution chronologically across 6 main chapters: the Silicon Valley Garage, entering the space age, PC and printing revolution, consumer dominance and mega merger, reinvention and historic split, and finally, AI and the future.
Let's start with Chapter 1, the Silicon Valley Garage. So, our story starts in a now legendary one-car garage in Palo Alto, California. This is where the blueprint for the modern tech startup was written. The sheer ingenuity of their first production model, the HP200A, really set the standard early on. It was a precision audio oscillator used for testing sound equipment. Bill and Dave actually used a small incandescent light bulb as a temperature-dependent resistor, which made their device vastly cheaper and significantly more stable than literally anything their competitors were making. And this brilliance caught the eye of none other than Walt Disney Studios. Disney ended up buying 8 of these devices to test the groundbreaking stereophonic sound system for their 1940 animated masterpiece Fantasia.
Moving right along to Chapter 2, Entering the Space Age.
As we move through the 1940s into the 1960s, the company transitioned from a tiny garage operation to a global powerhouse. And long before modern tech giants existed with their fancy campus perks, HP actually wrote the rulebook on employee management. They called it the HP Way. They introduced catastrophic medical insurance for employees, company-wide profit sharing, and they even pioneered the open floor plan. If you're an executive analyzing corporate success, it is absolutely crucial to note that their massive hardware innovations were directly fueled by this pioneering, deeply collaborative work environment.
As they expanded globally, establishing HP Labs in 1966, their focus shifted heavily into high-tech precision instruments. They were quite literally helping humanity reach the stars. In 1964, they invented the atomic clock, which coordinated international time down to a millionth of a second. They also invented light-emitting diodes, or LEDs, which are everywhere today. On top of that, their frequency synthesizers were essential pieces of equipment used aboard deep space exploration vehicles.
Which brings us to Chapter 3, PC and Printing Revolution.
By the late 1960s, it was finally time to bring technology directly into our homes and offices. Starting in 1968 with the HP 9100A, the company built incredible momentum. In 1974, they completely disrupted the industry with the world's first programmable pocket calculator. Think about that, making complex computing genuinely portable for the first time. By 1980, they released their first true PC, the HP 85, followed closely by a touchscreen PC in 1983. But the absolute game changer came in 1984, the introduction of the HP LaserJet. It quickly became the world's most popular laser printer and absolutely cemented HP as a dominant force in computing peripherals.
Now, looking back at that 1968 device reveals a true masterclass in marketing. Technically speaking, the 9100A was a programmable desktop calculator, but their advertising famously coined the term personal computer to describe it. Why? Simply to avoid the stigma of those massive, intimidating, room-sized mainframes. They understood consumer psychology perfectly, and it completely shaped how the general public would embrace early technology.
Next up is Chapter 4, Consumer Dominance and Mega Merger.
As we roll into the 1990s, technology finally becomes affordable for the everyday family, and HP strategically goes all in on the mass consumer market. First, they introduced the DeskJet 500C, bringing affordable color printing into homes. Then came the OfficeJet, the very first all-in-one printer, fax, and copier, the whole shebang in one machine. But the hardware shift that truly changed the cultural landscape happened in 1995 with the introduction of the Pavilion line of personal computers. The Pavilion brand basically turned multimedia PCs into a household staple, putting them directly into family living rooms all across the globe.
But navigating that kind of massive growth wasn't easy. If you're studying corporate strategy, the early 2000s are fascinating. $25 billion.
That staggering figure represents the 2002 acquisition of rival tech company Compaq, a massive deal orchestrated under CEO Carly Fiorina.
At the time, this was the largest tech merger in history, and let me tell you, it was incredibly controversial. The deal caused intense internal friction and was fiercely contested by Walter Hewlett, the son of co-founder Bill Hewlett. But while the cultural clash was definitely intense, looking at it objectively from a pure business standpoint, the acquisition achieved its main goal. It undeniably cemented HP as the world's largest manufacturer of personal computers.
That leads us into Chapter 5, Reinvention and Historic Split.
So, fast forward to the late 2000s. The market is heavily commoditized, and HP is facing absolutely fierce competition from brands like Apple and Lenovo. To fight back and win consumer loyalty, they methodically segmented their laptops. They launched the EliteBook in 2008 for high-end business pros, featuring military-grade durability. Then they dropped the Spectra line for premium consumers, with stunning all-aluminum chassis and 360-degree hinges. Finally, taking advantage of their earlier acquisition of boutique builder Voodoo PC, they aggressively pushed into the booming esports market with the high-performance Omen gaming brand in 2014. They specifically targeted every single high-value demographic.
But here's the catch. Even with stellar products, the corporate structure itself was struggling. By 2015, leadership realized the empire was just too massive to pivot quickly in the digital age. The solution? A historic split. They divided into two completely separate Fortune 500 companies. HP Inc. took over the consumer-facing PCs and printers, while Hewlett-Packard Enterprise was created to focus strictly on servers, storage, and corporate networking. It was a massive structural reset designed entirely to restore their agility.
And finally, Chapter 6, AI and the Future.
Jumping to today, the company is actively adapting to rapid societal shifts. The global move to remote and hybrid work created a massive surge in demand for PCs and webcams. Recognizing that this was a permanent shift, they acquired Poly, which you might know as formerly Plantronics and Polycom, to completely dominate the office collaboration gear space. And looking ahead, they are pouring heavy investment into the next era of computing, transitioning to AI-powered laptops equipped with dedicated neural processing units.
And who is guiding them through this unpredictable new landscape? Well, in early 2026, the company underwent a major leadership transition, moving from longtime CEO Enrique Lores to a new interim CEO, Bruce Broussard. Broussard now faces the incredible task of managing this 80-plus-year-old legacy as it navigates what is likely the most disruptive technological shift since the invention of the Internet.
So leaving you with this provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. Think about it. From a $538 investment in a tiny Palo Alto garage to creating audio oscillators for Walt Disney to splitting into two Fortune 500 giants, HP has constantly had to reinvent itself. But as the very nature of computing shifts away from physical hardware and into the invisible, rapidly evolving realm of neural networks, what exactly will the HP way look like in the decades to come? It's a fascinating question for any current or future business leader to ponder.